Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to this episode of the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by 4Wheel Parts. That's right, we have a new title sponsor. 4Wheel Parts has come on board. Don't worry though, Amsoil is still hanging with us. You're going to hear plenty more about them. But we're glad to have 4Wheel Parts on now. And we're also glad to have Scott Sparrow on. Welcome as the first guest of the show tonight. Speaking of guests, we got Duncan Lee coming back on. Shoot, it's been a long time since he's been on. Episode 114 was the last time that we saw Duncan Lee. When this episode comes out, it's going to be 156. So we're going to be talking about avalanche safety, specifically the people behind avalanche safety, the professionals behind it, the businesses behind it, how they operate. We do find a lot of similarities between what a sponsored rider does, what a sponsored racer does, and what a business does. So we're going to talk a lot about that too, but really want to hit on some of those key points around avalanche safety. Kind of the end of the season here for many people, but it's still really critical to understand these things. So Duncan is going to be coming on in a little bit to talk about that. Before we get into the show, though, there's a couple of things I want to cover with you. First off, you're listening, whether it's on the podcast or if you're watching live, head over to iTunes at some point and leave a rating and review for the show. That would be phenomenal. And if you're watching the live video right now, go ahead and share this thing out, add a hashtag, invite some friends, I don't know, put an emoji on there, do something, let me know you're there. And as we're doing the show, feel free to ask questions at any point. All right, a couple things I want to tell you about with 4Wheel Parts specifically, and then I want to talk about GSP XTV, who are proud sponsors of this specific episode. So 4Wheel Parts, they have a program running right now. It's called Get Dialed for Summer. Tons of good deals. I actually got it scrolling on the website behind me. If you're watching a live video, you might be able to make some of those things out, but $250 off Pro Comp tires if you buy a set of 4. If you go BF Goodrich, it's $100 off set of 4. We got buy 3 get 1 free on Pro Comp tires. There's a ton going on. There's actually $500 off of suspension systems too, which, if I go into this website back here and I click on my little cart, you will see I have a nice little kit added in there right now. We'll see what happens with that, but I got a little bit of suspension action added in there just in case I get a little crazy and spend some money on a lift kit. But so I'm not going to tell you what brand it is or what size lift it is, but it's behind me on the screen. And then GSP XTV, they've been with this live show now pretty much since the get-go. So Jimmy Moore of Bold Racing is the contact to get a hold of GSP XTV axles, specifically the Revolutionary axle. It's pretty cool stuff. I've got their website pulled up back here. You can actually see Jimmy Moore's ride on the front. So he's been running GSP for quite some time now and selling them for an equal amount of time. So, as we're kind of getting through this thing, I want to direct you over to the 4Wheel Parts website whenever you have any questions about whatever it is, suspension, tires. I mean, they got like everything. And plus they got tons of other brands. Smittybilt, there's actually 10% off Smittybilt right now too. They got Pro Comp, tons of other brands that they actually support. Well, hey, as people are joining here, I'm just going to keep an eye out for when we see Duncan come on. So I'm actually going to try to invite him just now, in case that I miss him at a later time. All right, let's see here. Oh, we got a few people watching. Hello. I can't see you for some reason. Something's going on. I can't see the people. All right, let's see. For some reason, I can't see the people right now, so I'm just going to keep on playing with this thing, and I might end up having to kill it if I need to. Hey, got some family joining here, so you can catch me in my technical difficulties. This is always the most awkward part of the show whenever I'm trying to add the actual guest to it. But it is what it is.
What's up?
Hey, it's good, man. Oh, shoot, I still got my cowboy hat on.
Yeah, you're looking good. You're looking really good.
Like that?
Yeah.
I thought this might be a little too much blue, but, I don't know if you can have too much blue.
Blue crew.
Blue crew.
Yeah, it's like the Dodgers. Yeah, sorry about that. I got lost in your page. There's a lot going on the page, and I haven't done too many live shows, so I was trying to search, and then finally, me and technology, not so much, but I made it.
Well, it was funny because, I don't know if it's funny. It was, concerning me because it was showing people coming on, and then normally I can see the full list, and then I'd see people on, and then it would completely drop the name off. Like, man, something might be wrong with this specific show. Like, the reach felt like it was off there for a minute. But Scott came on, and hey, that's all that mattered to me, and he was able to save us there for a minute.
Yeah, Scott's a good dude.
Scott taught me how to do the Facebook Live stuff. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we did a lot of practice runs very early on. But yeah, man. Well, hey, I'm glad you're able to come on today and chat. I know you just did a live show, a month ago maybe, with John Ferrian? Was that right?
I think it was before the winter, actually.
Oh, really? It was that long ago, huh?
I think so. It was a busy winter, so I can't really keep track of everything.
Yeah, the days just kind of start mixing together, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Well, the last time you've been on this show, that was episode 114. So quite a while ago. When I release this, it's going to be 156. So we've had some time passing. I don't know. Is there anything that you've been up to, something special that's happened, something you want to talk about just to kick things off?
You've been, number one, you've been putting in some serious work up to 156. That's a lot of episodes, man. So high five to you.
Yep.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just like I kind of touched on. Winter was so busy this year. It kind of flew by. Next thing I know, it's springtime, snow's starting to melt. And I was like, well, what happened? Right. I looked back at my schedule and I was like, oh, yeah, I took on a ton of projects this year as far as avalanche education goes. And I was just running around all over the place. So it was just a super busy winter. And, man, what an epic season at that. But it was filled with education and nothing but powder days for the most part until kind of wound down here, and we're sitting in really warm temperature spring riding, but we're still riding. So,
no, that's good, man. I had an interesting winter. Normally, my excuse for losing out on riding days is, it's not enough snow. Because Michigan, we've been struggling with snow recently.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll go up as far north as we can in Michigan, which is pretty far north. I mean, that's almost Canada, right? And it's just been, I've ridden in 50-degree weather with barely any snow on the ground. If we see 8 inches of snow, we're like, let's ride. Chris knows up there. Chris Abraham just joined it right, and him and I have ridden together, and we're like, there's an inch of snow? All right, we're running it. Let's get a couple thousand miles on it, But,
nice.
My excuse was just schedule. I mean, I only got up a couple of times. We had more snow in Michigan this year than we had in probably the past 3 years combined. And,
oh, wow.
I rode half as much as I did last year. So.
Oh, bummer.
I know, it is. But, yeah. But Chris, I think Chris, who's watching right now, he got some good riding in. At least I hope so. But, yeah, man, we don't have to worry about avalanche safety in Michigan. We'll just say that.
All you really need is a slope that's steep enough and snow on it. So you might have some micro terrain out there that could definitely propose a problem. But,
right.
Honestly, it just comes down to those simple factors.
Mm-hmm. And our big thing, honestly, is trees, deer or other animals, and any other riders. Because, we start getting cruising on these trails, and, these sleds are capable of 100+ mile an hour, and yeah, we lose riders to that every year in Michigan. Get a little too tight around the corner, a little loose around the corner, hitting a tree. That's our big thing in Michigan. But
yeah. I'm sure, man.
It's tough stuff. But hey, man, we're gonna talk more about avalanche safety. We've lost some friends. I think every year, right, we lose friends to avalanches. And there's a lot that you've done, a lot that other people who are part of the show have done to help prevent those things. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I want to understand more about the people behind that, the businesses behind that. And like I said at the very beginning of this show, right before you joined, is we also see a lot of similarities between what a business does and what a sponsored rider or sponsored racer does. I mean, there's a a lot of similar ways in which they work, especially when it comes to like avalanche safety. Those programs can't always run without the support of other businesses. So we'll talk about a little bit of that too. But let's kind of kick things off. I mean, the professionals behind avalanche safety, what are they like? I mean, you're one of them, obviously. What inspires them? What gets them going? Let's just kind of talk about them for a minute.
Sure. So, professionals in avalanche safety, generally they've all been from the skier side or human-powered side of things, because avalanche education started there a long time ago, 25, 30 years ago in the United States-ish, and has been a large market as far as that's concerned in the human-powered side of things. A lot of people started getting into the backcountry on skis and snowboards, and back then snowmobiles just weren't as capable as they are now, so they weren't as big a threat. So the professionals that are like the top tier individuals that have the most knowledge and experience right now, they're still most likely ski or snowboarders that do a lot of human-powered access. There are a handful of those individuals, though, that are diehard sledders and have become that way because the sleds have changed. And actually, my mentor in the whole industry, Travis Feist, is this he's an old school ski patroller. He's a guide. He guides in Chile. He's been teaching avalanche education for I don't even know how long, but he's one of the few that are just really top skilled and the right guys in the industry. And man, he is one of the most diehard snowmobilers that I know. And it is awesome. He's just totally flipped a switch at some point in the past 6 years and was like, skis? I don't need those anymore. I mean, he still teaches courses on skis and talks to ski patrollers and does that whole thing. But man, he is I just want to be on my sled. I just want to teach sled classes because they're so much fun. And it's pretty awesome to see. So that whole process of him getting into snowmobiling and the motorized side of things really kind of opened his mind and changed the way that he viewed avalanche education in general. And then all of a sudden, he actually produced a curriculum. He helped AIRI, which is the American Institute of Avalanche Research and Education.
Okay.
He helped them produce their first go at a motorized curriculum. We started that 5 years ago. Okay. And so there's been a shift, and there still needs to be more of a shift that happens. But right now, the industry as a whole, we're working into this new realm of having specific motorized avalanche education. Whereas in the past, it's been a human-powered curriculum adapted for motorized use, which has been just kind of swapping out words and such. But now it's actually being built from the ground up of how we actually use the mountains, of what our machines are capable of, and the places that we're going and how we're doing it. So things are still changing, and man, it's pretty exciting, that's for sure.
Oh, that's good. So I'm curious, which one proposes the bigger risk? If I look at a snowmobile, I'm thinking that you can just push a lot of snow really, really quickly and cause problems very quickly. But then skiers, it seems like there's way more skier snowboarders out there. I mean, is there one that's a bigger risk than the other? Or maybe you don't even know that.
Well, yeah, I mean, that'd be a difficult one to actually put a yes or no question on, I guess. But bigger risk. Well, what's going on is there are more people using the backcountry, and generally more skiers and snowboarders out there than snowmobilers per capita. However, we travel way more ground. We get more turns. We access terrain that's a lot farther out there, and we can just do it quicker, faster, and we cover an insane amount of aspects or mountains in one day compared to skiers and snowboarders. Right. So if you look at the numbers, the fatality rates, we're still pretty close to even every year, except this is the first year in I don't even know how long that we actually have half the fatalities as the skier snowboarder crowd. So right now, and winter's not really over. I mean, it's spring, but there's still snow out there, so avalanches are possible. But right now, the last tally I looked at was the motorized group was around 7 fatalities this year, and skiing and snowboarding backcountry use was at 14. So pretty, if that's how you gauge how we're doing, then we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, it stinks that that's the metric, but that's what you're trying to prevent, right? That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
So, well, and it's good for me just to understand that a little bit better. Being a flatlander myself, some of these risks I don't really get myself into all the time. Other than there are some, like you said, there are probably some specific terrain where I could run into that. But a lot of people from out east or Midwest, they do end up taking trips out to, the real West, and they get into some mountains. Typically they have a guide or somebody helping them out, but not always. So for anybody who is going to do that at some point, I did that before, and I went with somebody who was very experienced, and, we went through all the safety stuff, and we just basically followed him and did everything he said. But if I didn't have somebody like that, if I just tried to do it on my own, who knows what type of mess I'd get into. That's assuming I can actually ride for more than 5 seconds without getting stuck. That's really how I ride the mountains. Yeah, it's all good though. Hey, well, we got Rohan, we got Paul Woody. Looks like we just quick lost. We'll bring it back on in just a quick second, but if people are listening and watching, we're talking about avalanche safety, obviously, and the people behind that. If you're joining, go ahead and, type in a question if you got a question for me or for Duncan when we get him back on. And then share it, invite your friends, leave an emoji. It's all good. I'm going to try to add him back on. I know that he did just get kicked and booted. Sometimes when you get booted from Facebook, you got to completely restart the whole process again. So, yeah, I think he dropped off temporarily.
Hey, how about now?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're all good, man. Yeah, so I learned the headphone thing a little while back. The Echo, I don't need headphones in, but whoever the guest is has to have the headphones in for whatever reason. It's something that changed, not that long ago. So first, 20 episodes, no big deal. But, yeah, and something is going on. It's not just you. Something's going on right now where normally I could see, as soon as you're watching, I could see you and I can add you, and it's just not there today. But that's okay.
Oh, well.
We're back.
Yeah, I think I got a phone call and I hit decline, and next thing I know, it was just like, yeah.
Well, what's funny, man? I was watching you. I was like, you are the most expressionless person I've ever met. I was like, this is not good, man. Because either he is just serious or, like now, but I can see your wire spinning.
Yeah. Usually this is the expression.
It's just locked in. But, okay. So we were talking about the type of person that dedicates themselves to this type of thing. That's what we were getting to eventually. So tell me about that.
Okay. So, I kind of left off with a little bit of background about the professional educators that are out there right now, or at least the ones that are kind of the upper echelons, and they're steering the ship of where education is going and what's being taught out there. Then plug in, a handful of people that realize, motorized people need a real education, and we need to teach it from within. I don't know how many guys out there would show up to an avalanche class, and you got some guy wearing tight Patagonia pants and their black diamond shell jacket, and we're just like, wait, you're going to tell me what to do? So it's, doesn't really work that well, especially when they say, hey, you going to do some of that boondocking there, guy? And how's that hill climbing going down, or high marking, right? And they still think that's all we do. So teaching it from within and actually speaking the same language and doing the same sport is huge. So then you've got guys like Jeremy Hankey, which I don't know if you've had Jeremy on the show yet, but he's a good friend of mine out of Canada. And he actually got dug up in 2003 with a bunch of friends up in Canada. He's out of Revelstoke. And he, since then, has started teaching hardcore avalanche education for sledders and snowbikers. He's got an outfit up there, and he actually has been doing a lot of legwork and a lot of research on all of the topics that surround it to better the Canadian avalanche education system and just make sure everything's going really smooth in that direction and the way that he thinks that it should. So then you have other guys like myself and Jeremy who are just really dedicated sledders. I mean, this is what we love to do. We love to go sled. We do it with our buddies. We've been doing it for 20 plus years, and we've lost some friends. And And for us and for me specifically, it's been like, okay, something needs to change. And I believe I have the experience, and then I've gone through my education to get that as well. So I have the education and the experience to now help people survive the backcountry. And that's what we're doing. But it's not just survive the backcountry, because that makes it sound all scary and like it's a place we shouldn't be, but rather go out there and kill it and just shred and have a great time, but come home after every single ride. So then enter the instructors that we train. And I am a trainer for ARI. And so I get to go around and teach guys and girls how to teach and how to be good instructors and how to get in and dive in and get the necessary education and do it properly. Then they have the resources, the experience, and the education to then go teach the public. So you got guys like Matt Entz, who owns a guide operation. A lot of people know who Matt is.
Episode 30, if you want to know more about Matt, episode 30.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, way back, episode 30. Matt is now an ARI instructor as well as provider out of his operation. He offers level 1, level 2 classes and rescue classes to the public in southern Colorado. You've got Brian Lundstadt. He runs Tyler's Backcountry Adventures out of northern Colorado. He lost his brother to an avalanche some years ago, and he has been a huge advocate, and he has done a lot of work with ARI, and he is also an instructor and a provider. And he has actually been a great voice and a great person to be in contact and to work with to get the curriculum dialed in for the motorized user. So it's been really awesome as well. Basically it kind of comes down to all these guys are very passionate, guys and gals are very passionate about spreading education and making sure people get to enjoy the backcountry on our sleds and bikes and come home every day. And it's just like a win-win. If you can do it smart and you've done it right and you've gotten to shred, then man, like what not a better way to go. And then so there's other instructors that are also coming out. I mean, Brett Rasmussen is an ARI provider and instructor, and he has one of his right-hand guys that does most of the actual education stuff, Aaron Rossler, and I'm going to space on his name, Nate Smoot. Yes, they both work for Brett, and they're instructors now. They just took an instructor training course this year. And then the Mountain Riding Lab is a couple guys that I personally work with for and have taught and mentored, Will Mook and Matt Shebaum. And those guys are running a specific business that is only avalanche education for motorized users. They've been guiding at Togety Mountain Lodge for like 10 years. And then just this last year, they said, thank you guys very much. It's been a great haul. And they opened up the Mountain Riding Lab. Actually, 2 years ago, they opened it. But this past season was the first year that they didn't have other jobs. So they actually went all in and are dedicated to doing education. And it's a super fun time. You get to go ride with guys that know the area better than anybody out there. If you hit good conditions, you're going to shred POW. And it's 3 days for a level 1 class. And you're getting education that's a couple hours inside. Then you get to ride every single day and shred and make good decisions. So, I mean, it's such a great way to go. So basically, the people that are teaching education for motorized users are passionate people that know how to ride, and they're really fired up to share their maybe bad experiences or poor decisions in the past to change people's view, outcome, and basically the community. So we all see the mountains, get to play in the mountains, but have the right knowledge and experience to do it right.
No, it sounds good. And just a couple people as they were joining here. So Ryan running, hey, what's up? Randy Weiler, round 2. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody.
Yeah, definitely.
Leah, dang it, it's Leah. Leah Bauer. I even messed this up. We just did a show together. So Leah was on 154. I'm going to release 155 next. So she crushed on there, so you can check that out. Scott said episode 30 with Matt Entz gave him the push to start his #driven project. That is awesome. Because Matt Entz, I think, was like, look, I just want to snowmobile, and I want to build my whole life around that. So, he said he just built a whole business around allowing him to do what he loves, which is great. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the business side too, because, this is either like a volunteer activity or someone like Mountain Lab starting and running a business where people are, paying for experience or paying for the activity, but not everybody has that, right? There's classes, and I don't know, how does this stuff work? I mean, there's there's got to be a little bit to the whole business side to make avalanche education even possible.
Definitely. It comes down to that you're running a business, because good old U.S. Forest Service considers anything where there's a transfer of money to be a business. So in order to get permits, insurance, the way we have to set everything up, you kind of have to be a business and set up that way. And then the end result, to cover your costs and cover your time, plus your education, you have to charge people to take the classes. So in the end result, yeah, it's definitely a business. And, people aren't capitalizing on the fact that this is something we should all know before we get into the backcountry. They're just they're taking advantage of the situation of, hey, I'm going to put in all this time. I should be able to pay my mortgage, right, if I'm providing this.
Right.
So it boils down to that. So as far as the business side, just like anything else, probably setting up some LLC so you're not personally involved, because there is a high portion of risk involved, because you're taking people into avalanche terrain. So just like a guide business, you need to have the proper education, and you have to have all the proper insurances. You need the permits so you can go into the forest and have people pay you to take you there. Then add on the education side of the curriculum, which kind of changes it up from a guiding business. A guide business, you need the permits, the insurance, and a location, and then you kind of make the rest up yourself, right? For this, you actually need a curriculum to teach people that's vetted, that works, and that, if you ask me, follows the guidelines and rules of everything out there, specifically the AAA, which is the American Avalanche Association. They actually have guidelines of what can and cannot be taught. So you have other companies like Aries, not companies. Aries, a nonprofit, or what we like to say, a for impact organization, basically a .org. And what we do is we write curriculum. So we produce what is being taught and how it's being taught. So you need, as a business, you need that component on top of your insurance, your permitting, your location, and all that stuff. The nice thing about Aries is when you become a provider, you get the suite of stuff. So you get PowerPoints, you get videos, you get lesson plans, you get proposed ways to do all kinds of stuff, and you're linked into this network of other providers that's pretty massive. There's around 175 providers from ARI, and those are basically different businesses, and that's all of avalanche education, so motorized and human powered. On the motorized side, it's a much smaller pool right now. I think we're up to 10 perhaps for the specific motorized use. But yeah, same thing. You'll see a lot of people that offer both. Like Matt, he started his guiding business, and he's like, oh, hey, I think I might have an avenue here to help people more with being safe. A lot of people talk nowadays about avalanche education. He's like, I could go get my instructor's certifications, and I could be with ARI and provide this service. So he's also going down that avenue as well now, and being more of a complete business, offering guiding and avalanche education, because they do go hand in hand, right? All guides need professional avalanche education before they go guiding, because you're a professional in avalanche terrain. So if you don't have that top-notch education and experience level, then I don't think you should be out there guiding, personally.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And, we've already talked about a few of the names of people who've been on the show before. A lot of folks, they'll build the guide business. They'll actually a lot of times have sponsors that stick with them, additional supporters to them as an athlete, or even sometimes for their business. And then from that point, they can build out all these training programs, and they bring more people in. It's good exposure for the guide. It's good exposure for whatever business is supporting them, and it's good exposure for what we're really trying to promote then is avalanche safety. Good deal. We had a couple other people join too. Keegan Kincaid. Keegan, man, it's been a while since you've been on the show. You need to come do a live one with us at some point. Jackie Sue just joined as well, Chris Ward. Well, that's good. I mean, the next thing I really want to ask is, and this is really the last kind of question I want to cover, what are the things that the people listening, the audience can do to help, or what are the things that like sponsors can do to help to make avalanche safety a little bit, more transparent? I want to get that 7 number, 7 fatalities that happened this year. How do we get that to 0? How can businesses and airlines help?
Man, honestly, it's promoting what's going on and helping spread awareness. I think it's a cultural shift that needs to happen in everybody that's involved in the sport, thinking that, we go straight into avalanche terrain. If you're riding in the mountains on snowmobiles or snow bikes, you're seeking out avalanche terrain. That's just bottom line. So there needs to be some sort of education around that, or at least some knowledge before just jumping in. It's really easy for us to walk into a dealership, hand them our fun tickets, take the machine, boom, there you go, straight to avalanche terrain. Ski and snowboard world, you have to learn how to do something. You're in a controlled environment where they close runs or blast, throw bombs for avalanches. And then you're like, oh, I'm better at skiing now. I want to get out into the backcountry. Well, for us, it's straight to the backcountry. There's no other option. So I honestly think that it's a cultural responsibility or industry responsibility of the manufacturers, the companies out there, and the sponsors, basically, is what you're kind of getting at, right? The sponsors of all these riders and all these brands, they need to kind of step up and take on more of the responsibility of it for themselves and promote more of the safety. They need to get behind the right messaging, talk to the right people involved, and really kind of co-brand that messaging to make sure that everybody is going in with their eyes open. Because I think for so long, we've been kind of going in without our eyes open, right? There just hasn't been the opportunity for motorized users to get educated, so they haven't. I mean, it's kind of like, hey, why don't you go throw on some snowshoes for 3 days and go walk around with some skiers to get some avalanche education? It's like, I'm good, right? So honestly, I think it's through the community sharing things like this. Yeah, what up, Bafoo? Justin Bafoo just jumped on. He's an AK guide. He's an avalanche dude. He knows a lot about the industry. And actually, speaking of the whole component, I got to spend a day with Justin, who is working on a secret hideout location out here in Tahoe for some sled guiding perhaps in the future. And I got to kind of sit in on their guides meetings and talk about the forecast and the avalanche conditions. And me and Justin, he lives about an hour from me or so. And man, we share information all winter long about the different places we are. And then he goes up to AK in the spring, and he's always sending me texts and messages about what's going on up there. So, and that's like that. For that example, that's another great way to share and promote awareness, is for people to talk about it. For riders and individuals in the community to talk about what's going on out there. And then one more thing to all the sponsored riders out there, go get some education. If you haven't taken any, it is time. You cannot consider yourself a professional if you can't do all aspects of the sport, which includes knowing avalanche conditions, being able to perform a rescue, because when you need it most, your friends' lives depend on you. So please, all you pros out there, it is time to buck up. And I'd be more than happy. And I've even talked to a couple organizations about doing pro rider kind of courses to get specific teams that ride together a bunch, go take a class together, right? Or maybe we've been talking about providing some workshops for them so they can hone their skills and get better at it. So I just think all in all, it comes down to like everybody needs to share the knowledge and be upfront with it. If you're caught in an avalanche, share. If you saw one, share. If you've just like heard about one, hey, share that too, right? Like we can't have our egos bigger than what's going on, because if you made a mistake, it's okay, right? Like that's where we learn. So share what's happened, share what goes on. And I think that's honestly the best way we can get better at this whole thing.
Definitely. Stephen Rice just kind of commented, sometimes elective safety training might be hard for like the average enthusiast to rally behind, but he's like the guide route has done a good job of kind of making that, like, it sneaks up on him, like, oh, come on, let's have a good time, but you're also going to get formal training in the process, right?
Yeah. There's guys that offer both, right? Like Mountain Riding Lab offers a 2-day ride package and rescue package. Here, hang on.
Oh, there you go.
Louis. Sorry, my pug just got home.
That's awesome. Oh, there he is.
There we go. This is Louis.
Hey,
Big
Louis.
Lou. Hi, Louie.
How's it
The
going,
wife
bud?
and dog just got home.
Awesome.
Oh, there go the earphones too.
That's awesome. For people on just the audio version, we just saw a pug. It was pretty cute. And actually, speaking of Mountain Riding Lab too, I missed this earlier. Scott Sparrow said they were on episode 47 of his Driven show, which is another Facebook Live show.
Yeah.
You wanna know
Yeah, that's Matt and Will.
Mm-hmm. Good deal. Well, hey, we covered a lot of good content today. We had to do it in 2 separate videos with a few technical issues, which is not new to me. I'm getting somewhat comfortable with technical issues now. But hey, is there any last little piece of parting advice you want to leave the audience?
Honestly, I don't know. I mean, when we go riding, we just need to help the community think about what it is we're really going to do. We're going into the backcountry. There's not much help out there. So one, we got to rely on ourselves. Why not go into it eyes open and get the most education that you can? The more you know, the more you can access, the cooler stuff you can go ride, the cooler places you can go to. I mean, the more education and the more doors that open. So I think it's just important that we kind of embrace that and spread it around. And man, don't listen to one person for all your education either. Like if you came to every single one of your own classes through me, at one point I'd be like, okay, look, you need to go learn from somebody else. I don't know it all. Everybody doesn't know it all, right? So seeking out those different sources of where you can learn more is really important. That ups your experience level. So just thinking that because it hasn't happened to me or I've never seen it happen, that doesn't mean it's not going to. So all you need is the right recipe on the wrong day and the wrong setup, and we're going to end up doing a case study about it and learning from it. And last thing we want is learning about more of our friends and trying to figure out how not to do what they did. So.
Well, hey, I appreciate, you taking the time tonight to share that story and kind of give some other examples of other people in the industry, what they're doing to help, and for all your help too. But at this point, I'm going to leave you with this. Have fun and ride safe.